Happy New Year and welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports, our first of the year. I'm JJ Jurjevich. Joining me this evening is Wayne Ridenauer in beautiful Memphis, Tennessee. You can find us all at ATL Prime Sports on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Personal X's at JJ Get You One for myself, at RWY Jr. for Wayne, at Corder Todd, TC Todd Corder. For TC Todd Corder, who is out tonight, family planning. I should say like that. They've had family plans in the mix for a while here, so he's doing some family stuff. And at LG for real though, Larry Gardner, who is coaching up his kids, the basketball and the wrestling world, doing the dad thing. So hats off to those two, and happy New Year to everybody. Wayne, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, but I don't watch. I usually don't watch very much women's basketball, but I got to tell you, the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks have really. I'm telling you right now, they're marching their way right next to another championship game. Hopefully, better turnout this time.
Yeah, it's really interesting women's college basketball right now. You have Caitlin Clark scoring 30 points on the reg, 35 points on the reg. Very interesting. Lots of storylines of women's college basketball that makes you want to watch. And
Yeah.
I have honestly watched just a couple of games, and they have involved Caitlin Clark, so I'm right there. I'm doing well. My doing well statement has something to do with college basketball as well, Wayne. I'm doing well, but not nearly as well as the Grambling women's basketball team. They beat the College of Biblical Studies. I had to double check this, guys. 159 to 18 Tuesday night. The 141-point victory marks the largest margin of defeat by any team in D1 women's basketball history. So doing well, but not that well. Hats off to the Grambling ladies. That is some dominant performance. What's on tap today? We got Ethan Offutt from the Dogs Daily joins us. He's giving us an early preview for UGA football next year as things wrap up here. Talking Dirty Birds and their playoff hopes. You know how that goes. And we're previewing the college football playoff national championship. And of course, it's getting down to the nitty gritty in our picks. We will do that. Without further ado, we welcome our guest, Ethan Offutt. UGA tight end Brock Bowers declared for the NFL draft earlier this week. That being said, we do welcome back Dogs Daily writer Ethan Offutt. You can check Ethan out on X at Ethan, Ethan Offutt, OFFUTT84. That's on X. Ethan, thanks for coming on. How you doing, man?
I'm good, guys. Thank you for having me on. Brock Bowers leaving, big deal for him, but I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, huge deal. I think everybody expected it. He was banged up at the end of the season. Didn't get the Orange Bowl appearance that we all were hoping for. The one last Brock Bowers big run across the jet on the jet sweep or a deep pass play. Dogs fans did not get that, but we all know why now, and rest up well. But your thoughts on Brock Bowers' career at Georgia and where you think he might land? You may got some ears to the ground in the NFL. Where do you think he might land in the NFL as well?
That's a very good question. I think Brock Bowers is personally a top 10 pick, top 15 if not. Within the top 10, you got the Bears who could use a tight end if they're going to look to keep Justin Fields around. They have two top 10 picks. They have the number one pick from Charlotte, which will probably be Caleb Williams. But then you have the New England Patriots right now sitting at three, who also need some sort of receiving threat. But the where I want Bowers to land is right now sitting at pick number 6 with the Los Angeles Chargers. They have Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, but they don't have a tight end. Brock Bowers could come in and immediately make that impact with his two-time John Mackey Awards, his total of 2,536 receiving yards on just 175 catches for 26 total touchdowns in his 3-year career with Georgia. And then on top of that, you hand the ball off to him, he's going to churn out maybe 200 total yards in 3 years and 5 more touchdowns. So, like you said, he's very versatile. I mean, there was a report I did earlier over the summer to where people were comparing him to George Kittle. And I do think that is true. George Kittle does have the same tenacity as Brock Bowers. They're both very hard nosed football players. But then I think you could sprinkle in a little bit of Travis Kelce's receiving ability. You sprinkle in a little bit of Sam Laporta's blocking ability, and that's where you get Brock Bowers. I think any team who's able to grab him, even the New York Giants with Darren Waller out there, anywhere he goes, he's going to be a perfect fit just because of how much he's able to do.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. I think he will land in the top 10. Easily a day one pick, maybe in the 15 range. I know a lot of GMs probably have Kyle Pitts in the back of their head saying, the Falcons went up and got him at 4. And, he's a unicorn, they say, but Atlanta's not really using him. So I don't know if it's an Atlanta thing or a Kyle Pitts thing. But I wonder if that's in the back of GM's heads going into this draft. But I think he's an all-around good guy. Look, he's an academic All-American, if I'm not mistaken. So the guy gets it done in the classroom and on the field. He's a lethal weapon, as you mentioned, Ethan. Use him on the jet sweep as a running back. You can get – and I know Todd Monken is at the end of the first round going, Mark Andrews just got hurt. What's he going to be like? I wonder if we can move up and get someone like this. So, that's where I think maybe trading up would be beneficial for a team like Baltimore to maybe get that tight end if they feel like Mark Andrews is not going to rehab in time for the beginning of next year. But Isaiah Likely did fill in very well in Baltimore. But I just put that connection together with Todd Monken, obviously. And I liked everyone you said, so I wasn't going to repeat it. Let's move forward. Let's talk about the Dogs' 2024 and 2025 schedule. It is murderous row. You go to Tuscaloosa, you go to Austin, Texas. I believe they play in Oxford as well, play Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely tough schedule. I think Auburn's at home. I haven't gotten the schedule quite memorized, but all these people talking about Georgia's easy schedule this year, well, that'll be off the rocker to say that type of question next year. Your early look going into next year, obviously the murderous row schedule, number one recruiting class. Give us some thoughts going in. What Dog Nation should expect going into next season.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned just to touch on the easy schedule talk for this year. I've never been too fond of that talk towards Georgia's schedule, and the reasoning is because that Oklahoma was originally on that schedule. We were never supposed to play Ball State. We were supposed to go to Oklahoma and play the Sooners out there, but because them and now Texas is joining the SEC next season, that was scratched by the conference. It wasn't scratched by either university. So moving on though, you mentioned this 2024 schedule. I mean, they open up the year in Atlanta with Clemson. And then, as you mentioned, they go on the road to Bama. They go on the road to Texas and Ole Miss. And then you also get a preview of what Brock Vandegrift and Jamon Dumas-Johnson is going to look like in Big Blue Nation with Kentucky. So you're going to have a bunch of road matchups. I think what we saw this year with this team is that even though you're going to go into these tough environments, you're going to be able to pull away and have more grit, I would say, in order to complete these games. Now, is it going to be easy? No, it will never be easy in the SEC. But I think what we saw from the college football playoffs, Bama's not who they used to be. And also Texas is very beatable. And then Ole Miss, I mean, we saw what happened with Ole Miss this year when they came to Athens. It wasn't as close as what people were expecting. So I think what we need to see first is how this roster turnaround is going to prove for Georgia. I mean, you have a bunch of key pieces leaving this team. I mean, we were just talking about Brock Bowers, so we've already seen what Oscar Delp is gonna be able to do, but Oscar Delp kind of formed his body to be Darnell Washington this year. He put on 25 pounds in the offseason to be able to become that blocking tight end that Georgia needed. So in that case, I don't know if Georgia's going to ask him to re-lose all of that weight, but they may ask somebody like Lawson Lucky to step in and maybe fill that passing deep threat void. I mean, we saw against Florida State what he was able to do, and then again during G Day when he had a bunch of hype around him, what Lucky was able to do. I think Lawson Lucky will be a name to watch in the coming years for Georgia. But not only that, you have two new wide receivers transferring in. The 6'5" Colby Young, who is the Miami Hurricanes' third leading receiver this year. And then London Humphreys from Vanderbilt, who is the Commodores' second leading receiver. And not to mention, he also opened up the game against Georgia with a 49 catch and run touchdown. Those two are going to be lethal for Georgia with the departure of Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. But then you get into it a little bit more and you start looking at the offensive line. Who's going to replace Amarius Mims? Who's going to replace Cedric Van Pran? I think the biggest question will be Cedric Van Pran in the center position. And he started consecutively, for 3 straight years almost. And nobody behind him has really seen as much playing time as SVP. Um, I think Monroe Freeling will replace Mims over at right tackle, and he's going to do good. But you don't know who's going to be that center. Jared Wilson could be it, but you really don't know until comes spring practice and G Day, and maybe even first game against Clemson. But then you turn to the defense. Who's going to replace the secondary trio of Tyke Smith, Amari Lassiter, Javon Bullard? Those are all three DGDs, as we like to call them.
Yep.
And, those are going to be hard pieces to replace. I mean, you have Julian Humphrey, who has had some good playing time as a freshman, but he can't decide whether or not he wants to transfer out or stay with the team. It was just announced today that he was going to stay with Georgia after he just announced yesterday that he was going to transfer.
And you took the words right out of my mouth, Ethan. I was going to ask you about that next, is Humphrey's decision. It was in the transfer portal, out of the transfer portal. So the latest word is definitely he is committed to staying at the current moment.
Yeah, at the current moment, I actually wrote something up and it's published through Dogs Daily right before we came on. Saw a report from On3's Rusty Manziel to where he was able to get in on an exclusive interview with Humphreys. And Humphreys told Rusty that, he appreciated how much the Georgia staff pursued him. And he said that Georgia's the premier caliber program where he needs to be in order to get to the NFL. He said, if I have one good year at Georgia, I know I can get to the NFL. So I think that's part of the reason he's staying. You'll never really know that until Humphreys makes that decision or the portal window just closes on him and he doesn't have time to make a decision. But if he doesn't, Daniel Harris could easily step up and be a good cornerback. My favorite cornerback coming in is Ellis Robinson, the fourth. This dude is a baller. He is a great man coverage player, and he's going to make some waves in Athens.
Yeah, one of the top cornerbacks coming in this recruiting class, one of the bell of the balls that Kirby picked up in that number 1 overall recruiting class. So my last question on this recruiting class coming in, we'll talk about Puglisi. Obviously, Raiola's out. Puglisi stays. Your thoughts on that, and then we'll get into the college football playoff talk a little bit.
Yeah, so I actually had a chance to interview Raiola over the summer, and something I didn't give away during that interview, but I feel like I can now, is I don't ever think Raiola was fully committed to Georgia. I mean,
100%
he
agree.
did make the move out here to Buford, and that's a big move to make all the way from Arizona. But I'm watching him throughout this camp, and he's got an Oregon arm sleeve here, Ohio State towel here. He's got a Nebraska leg sleeve on. And I'm like, dude, maybe you're not fully committed yet. We appreciate the fact that you are, but I don't think you're fully bought in. And that's what everybody that I've talked to has been so impressed with Puglisi is that he just wants to come in and get better. He understands that he's going to have to sit the way Gunnar Stockton has, Brock Vandegrift was, Carson Beck did. I mean, he understands that notion and understands that it's going to take time to become an elite quarterback in the SEC.
Yeah, I'm all about this Puglisi guy. I saw Raiola from the beginning. I said, look, this guy's 4 different schools, 4 different years in high school. And I'm not judging character because every situation is different. But you get here, and I said the same thing. I said, I noticed this when he was playing at Buford. Some nights he would come out in a Georgia towel. Some nights he'd come out because Buford's on TV a lot down here. I live 30 minutes from Buford High School, if that, with traffic. So you'd see different towels, different rumors, and then you always saw the writing on the wall. His uncle, his dad, and the connections with Nebraska. Well said there, Ethan. Folks, you're listening to Ethan Offutt right here on ATL Prime Sports. You can find Ethan on X at Ethan Offutt 84. That's ETHANOFFUTT 84. Let's get into the college football playoff. Your thoughts on the victors, Michigan and Washington, and then we'll get a quick preview. Kind of a real quick question. I didn't like the play call at the end of the game for Alabama, so we'll kind of have an open-ended discussion about it. But your thoughts on the Bama Michigan game, Washington Texas game, and the final play call in the Alabama Michigan game. That I personally thought, if you're going to give it to your best guy, and everybody knew you were, get him to the outside at least. Give him the space to work with. You put him in a shotgun formation. Power run game up the middle. Yeah, it might work, but they're crashing. They're on cover 0. They're crashing. They're slanting. Everything's coming to the inside on that play. Your thoughts on that, and then your thoughts on obviously the 2 winners.
Yeah. The last play call was interesting. I think this is something that the analysts should have been on the headset telling either the OC or Nick Saban. Michigan had 10 tackles for loss in the game with 6 sacks. They were wreaking havoc the entire game on that offensive line, and it was getting to the center, Seth McLaughlin's head, who is actually from Buford and entered the transfer portal today.
He did.
But he had 4 bad snaps, I think, that game, and especially on the last play of the game. And it's strictly because of how that offensive line got bullied. And I think if you're going to take this into consideration, you got to find a way to, like you said, either get Milroe to the outside or get it through McLaughlin's head that you're okay. You've been our guy. We've kept you in the entire game. Let's get these snaps back there. Because as a long snapper myself, it's very easy to get in your head with that ball in your hands. You're immediately thinking, I don't want to mess up again. I don't want to do this again. And you just can't do that. You got to be mentally tough. And, just a quarterback run after 2 timeouts, one by Michigan, one by Bama. You got to figure out a better play call.
I 100% agree. I looked at it, I go, everybody knew that was coming. I mean, I knew it, you knew it, Wayne knew it, the whole stadium knew it, Dave Portnoy knew it, everybody knew it, man. And I just said, look, he's your best athlete. I get it. You give him the ball. But again, get him in space, let him make a play, maybe break a tackle on the outside, something. Your thoughts on Michigan versus Washington in the national championship game? Give us a quick thought on Washington, Texas, right quick. I was very impressed with Penix. I was completely wrong. I picked Bama and Texas. I thought we were getting a rematch. So I was way off on my predictions. I want to hear someone else talk about it for a change. Your thoughts on Washington, Texas, and that Michael Penix Jr. show?
Well, like you, I was completely off on my predictions. I thought it was going to be another rematch. But, I think Michael Penix proved this game why he deserved the Heisman. And, I don't want to discredit Jaden Daniels at all. He had a great season. But if I was a voter for this year, my vote is towards Michael Penix Jr. Now, what was very interesting was how people are trying to compare him to Tua. I don't like that. I think he's his own player. But here's what the story of the game is going to be if I'm the one calling it. And the story of the game is going to be, how is Michigan's number one rated defense going to stop the three receiving threats from Washington and Michael Penix's arm? How are you going to stop them? And then on top of that, how are you going to stop the very lethal running back that they have that's kind of slept on? I mean, they have a
Yeah.
good offensive line that just won the Joe Moore Award. So it'll be an interesting game. I think it'll be offense versus defense instead of offense versus O or D versus D. It'll be a good game. I think Washington may sneak out with a victory. I think it'll be probably 34-27.
I like it. I'm not going to give away my pick for our listeners at the end of the show, but man, this is a tough one to pick. Ethan, I want to say thanks for coming on, man. Always a pleasure chatting with you. Hope all is well with you and your work up there at Dogs Daily. Tell our listeners how they can find you, and we'll put a link to your latest articles down below in the YouTube section. But tell our listeners how they can find you on Dogs Daily.
Yeah, so if you go on Twitter or X, you can find me on X at Ethan Offutt 84. That is ETHAN OFFUTT 84. Or if you go to Google and just type in my first and last name, Ethan Offutt, then more than likely you'll see articles by myself, and it'll be through Dogs Daily Sports Illustrated. And it'll pull up every single article I've done dating back to March.
Awesome. Well, we always appreciate you coming on. Happy New Year, and as always, go Dogs, my friend. We'll chat with you soon, man. Enjoy that national championship game. Should be a good one.
Thank you guys for having me on. Thank you for your time. Happy New Year, and go Dogs.
All right. Happy New Year, man.
Ethan Offutt from Dogs Daily. Great guest, great interview. Thanks again, Ethan. We'll move on in the show, guys. Going from college football and the Dogs, we'll transition over to the NFL and then get back into some college football at the end of the show real quick. But with the 7-9 record, our Dirty Birds still have an outside shot at the playoffs, Wayne. Let's talk Dirty Birds and go around the NFL's playoff scenarios because there's some doozies out there, okay?
A lot.
Wayne, chances the Falcons and the Panthers win on Sunday, meaning if that happens, folks, Atlanta is your NFC South champions. Percent chance. Let's put a number on it.
I'm going with a 95% chance.
95. I
Yes.
like your optimism.
And I would go 100%, but that would be too foolish.
Well, I like it. I'm putting it at 50. I think it's a pretty good shot. I personally think Carolina is going to pull the upset. They're playing pretty good football. Bryce Young feels like they're starting to get it under control, looking like he might be able to figure this game out at the NFL level. They're still throwing to Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo. They got Chuba Hubbard, Sanders. They got some offensive weapons. I think they can disrupt Baker Mayfield and company and make it uncomfortable for them as the Saints did last week. I think Carolina can't get that upset. The problem is Atlanta, Wayne, as you know as a Falcons fan, they do not play well in New Orleans. It's a kryptonite. And that may have foreshadowed my pick, But I am pulling for a 95%er, Wayne. I am pulling for a 95%er, but it is happening. If the Falcons get the W, Carolina gets the W, there'll be a division banner hanging in Mercedes-Benz next year for division championships. They're going to go with Heineke again, it looks like, even though a poor performance in the snow against Justin Fields and the Bears last week. But here we are in the present. Despite all the ups and downs of the season, you win, you have a shot. That's what you want in these games. Taylor Heineke said it best in his interview, heard on 680. Just kept saying, look, the situation's not perfect. It's not ideal, but we're playing meaningful games in December, and that is what you want as an NFL franchise, December and January, that is. So here we are talking about NFL playoff scenarios. Let's keep with that tradition. Let's keep with that matchup and go with all the scenarios that could possibly happen. Right now, I think it's 9 total teams have clinched. You got 4 in the NFC and 5 in the 4 in the AFC, 5 in the NFC. So you got the Ravens, Dolphins, Browns, Chiefs in the AFC, the Niners, Eagles, Lions, Cowboys, and Rams in the NFC. Those are your done deals. The order's not quite set yet, except we do know the Ravens and the Niners will be the 1 seeds in each league. A Houston-Indy game is pretty easy. It's the first scenario we'll go over. The winner gets in, and they both have a shot at winning the AFC South. I keep wanting to say NFC South, but this is the AFC South. The AFC South title is on the line. What's at stake? Houston clinches the AFC South title with a win or a Jacksonville loss or tie. And then the Texans can still clinch a playoff berth in general with a win by themselves, obviously, a Houston tie, Jacksonville loss, and a Pittsburgh loss or tie, and the Texans are still in. The Colts get in, obviously, with the win. They win the division with a win and a Jacksonville loss or tie, or an Indianapolis tie and a Jacksonville loss. Are you staying with me here, folks? I told you in the NFL, it gets a little nitty-gritty with these tie ball games if it ever happens. And it's week 18 and crazy stuff happens. Lamar Jackson's out. Christian McCaffrey's out. A lot of players aren't even playing. Jacoby Brissett starting instead of Joe Flacco up there in Cleveland. It's going to be an interesting final week of the season. Some other playoff scenarios. The Steelers can clinch a playoff berth with a win and a Buffalo loss, or a win and a Jacksonville loss or tie, or a win and a Houston-Indianapolis tie, or a Pittsburgh tie plus a Jacksonville loss plus a Houston-Indianapolis doesn't end in a tie.
And just to go along with all this, I'm going to let you know that there'll be some graphics down below our faces on the YouTube for all the video watchers, so they can kind of get a visual of what you're talking about, because right now I feel like you could add some bacon bits to my brain, because I am totally scrambled, man.
Yeah, it's all over the place. That was my point. I'm glad you're going to add the graphics. But basically, there's a ton of playoff scenarios at stake. Miami, Buffalo's got some playoff scenarios in it. Miami will clinch the AFC East title with the win or a tie, and Buffalo needs the win
to get
the AFC East title. And then they can also lose the game and completely miss a playoff spot if Pittsburgh wins. So there's just so many. And then if they win and Pittsburgh loses, or if they win, it's just crazy. They get the 2 seed if they win. If they lose, they could be out. It's crazy. So again, we'll talk about all these. We'll have all the graphics up. Dallas clinches the NFC East title with the win or a tie plus a Philadelphia tie or a loss. So there's that one. Tampa Bay gets in. If they win, they're division champions, period. That's it. They win, they're in. Tampa Bay ties plus a Seattle loss plus a Green Bay loss or tie. The Bucs still get in the playoffs. Here's our Dirty Birds hope. What's at stake? Atlanta will clinch the NFC South title with a win plus a Tampa Bay loss. It's their only way of getting in. got to win the division. No wild card hope because we have lost all the tiebreakers to the important teams that are necessary. How about that? Terrible. Terrible. And I saw something somewhere. I don't know if it's true, but it sounds legit. If the Bears end up being the last place team, I think the Falcons will have 5 losses to last place teams in their division. Pretty impressive how bad the Falcons have done. New Orleans, they win. They're in with a Tampa Bay loss or tie as well, so they can win that matchup. There's that scenario. Philadelphia wins plus a Dallas loss. They're the division champs. Seattle Seahawks can still get in and clinch a playoff berth with a win plus a Green Bay loss, or a tie plus a Green Bay loss and a Tampa Bay loss. So, yeah, I'm getting out of breath here. You guys get the picture. We'll put up all the scenarios, but I think Green Bay is going to get into the playoffs as one of those final seeds, as a wild card. It's going to be interesting, the NFL playoffs, because I would not want to play a team like the Green Bay Packers, who have had to win their last couple games to get in this situation. Jordan Love's playing really good football. I like the way the Packers are running the ball with Aaron Jones the last couple weeks. So it's going to be a tough team to beat. They're used to cold weather, playing in Lambeau, so weather doesn't matter, indoors or outdoors. They're well tested. They're well coached with LaFleur. So I'm expecting that Green Bay gets one of those final spots. And that about wraps it up. Minnesota could still technically clinch a playoff berth with a win, Green Bay loss, Seattle loss, plus a Tampa Bay loss, or a win plus a Green Bay loss, plus a Seattle loss, plus a New Orleans loss. So, yeah, that's why we can't get the wild card, is that team right there, that Minnesota Vikings team that was led by Josh Dobbs. It's the reason the Falcons can't get a wild card berth, or else it'd be a bit higher percentage chance there. So those are your playoff scenarios, Wayne. Pretty crazy. Any thoughts on the NFL playoff scenarios as they stand right now?
No, I'm interested in seeing how many of these teams are going to play spoilers who are already out and are going to keep another team from getting in by beating them. Mostly I'm talking about that Bears Packers game, because I got a feeling the Bears are going to win that, and Packers are going to get sent home.
So we're on opposite. The Bears are playing really good football, and Ethan mentioned Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. Personally, I think the Bears are going to keep Justin Fields, trade back, and acquire more picks. I think Justin Fields has kind of learned how to play in that system and within the means of that system. And I think he's evolved as a passer. We know he's an elite runner. So I think you give him one more year in that system and see if it clicks and move forward. But they had an outside shot at the playoffs, but they needed a tie last week and did not get it in that Sunday night football game with the Packers and the Vikings. So they are out, eliminated. But again, they would have held the tiebreaker over the Falcons if things would have fallen in place. So absolutely hysterical. But what a wonderful NFL season. It's been ups and been downs, especially in the quarterback play. We'll see what happens moving forward. But I personally, let's have some fun, Wayne. I'll do a quick Super Bowl pick. I've been saying it on Twitter. I've been saying it all year. My dad's been wanting it his entire life. I'm going to give it to you. We're going to have a Browns and Lions in the Super Bowl, Wayne.
Yeah, you've got me on board too, man. That's what I've been telling everybody else. That's what I'd want, and I have not received very much pushback about it. Everybody seems to want that type of scenario, just because it hasn't happened very much.
Well, I think it'd be great because of the Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco standpoint. If Flacco wins, he's a Hall of Famer, first ballot with his second Super Bowl ring. The guy elevates his play when it gets to the playoffs. It's like John Smoltz in postseason for Joe Flacco. He just says, I'm bringing my luggage, and we're staying here till the end. So lots of scenarios playing out this Sunday. Please enjoy the games. Go Falcons. It's going to be meaningful games. Like Taylor Heineke said, this is what you want in this situation. It may not be the most pretty thing, but Falcons fans, they do have a shot. And if they can take care of business Sunday, they'll have to do some scoreboard watching, but it should be fun. Let's go and slide back over into college football real quick, Wayne, and preview this big, huge national championship game on Monday night, featuring the number 1 and number 2 teams in the land. Historic matchup, historic teams. Both these teams won a championship in the 90s, 91 for Washington, 97 for Michigan. So a little title drought, but they've been there. So it should be a really fun ball game. Let's talk about it. The college football season has dwindled down to 2 teams, Michigan, Washington. Let's break down the game. We'll give you our picks in the next segment. Wayne, what are some of your big keys to the game this coming Monday?
Well, I haven't watched the 2 previous games leading up to this. I would say that I'm not quite as confident in Washington's offense as I was before I watched how Michigan played defense. And I don't really think Washington's offense played up to 100% in their semi, what do you call it?
Semifinal game?
Semifinal game, yeah. And that's why I'm kind of more worried about my Washington pick, which, see, I'm giving away all my pick sixes early.
It happens. It happens. Well, hey, I like it. I like the game. I'm excited about the game. I was completely caught off guard by both these teams winning. I really thought Alabama, Jalen Milroe would roll. I thought the athletic ability of Jalen Milroe would move the pocket. Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Bond and company would get deep behind the safeties and the cornerbacks. And I thought they'd make a couple explosives. They limited those to – boy, I don't know if they had a 30-yard pass play.
Well, in your defense, I think I did see Milroe rolling around in the pocket a few times in that game. So,
he did. He was running for his life. He just they got to him. They got him to the ground, and when a mobile quarterback's on the ground, you can't throw the ball, can't run the ball, and that's the best defense. It's getting him on the ground. They sacked him 6 times, as Ethan mentioned. They got after his ass and put him in the turf. And, boy, I tell you what, it was a fun game to watch.
Yeah.
Ethan, the long snapper at Pike University, talked about that snap problem. I don't know this for a fact, but I bet you Alabama lost 40 yards, 50 yards on those 4 or 5 bad snaps. And it really shot themselves in the foot. Nick Saban said it. Don't like the play call at the end, but that's the story for a different day, beating that to a dead horse. Keys to this big game, Michigan, Washington. It's got to be – something's got to give.
Yeah.
Meaning top passing attack, top defense. Washington averages right at 350 yards a game, Wayne, while the UMD gives up the fewest points in the country, right under 10 points a game, 9.5. So something's got to give. Michigan's secondary will be challenged. Cornerbacks Sarastil and Will Johnson are going to have their hands full with the trio that Ethan mentioned earlier, Polk, McMillan, and Adunzi. They can play. And when Penix Jr. targets those guys, he's accurate. He's decising. He makes the great decision. He gets it out quickly, and he's decisive with the football. That was the word I was looking for. I think he had 1 incompletion. I put it on my Twitter, at JJGetYouOne. Go check it out. I think it was 16-17. Let me go check my notes right quick. I want to make sure this is right. But it was unbelievable. Targeting his big 3 receivers.
Well, I'd still be concerned if Penix can handle that much pressure, because he's going to get pressured.
Yeah, he will. He's going to have to be able to make the play, extend the pocket. Yeah, Michael Penix, 16-17 for 305 yards, targeting his top 3 receivers in that Sugar Bowl. Unbelievable performance. Again, the decisiveness, get the ball out of his hands quickly. DeBoer's running this offense perfectly. They were together at Indiana. He transferred over with them to Washington. And, boy, again, Michigan's secondary is going to have their hands full. They did a great job, mentioned earlier, holding Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Bond and company. 8 total catches between the 2 receivers for 47 and 21 yards, respectively. I have not seen anybody do that to Alabama's offense in quite some time. So this is a real coin flip of a game for me. The storyline in this game to watch, Wayne, is Washington in one-score games. They've won 5 in a row. They've done it all season. And to me, that's the difference in the game right there. They're able to play under pressure and not bat an eye. And they just sit there and they scheme and they adjust and they play just good enough defense and make that key stop on defense that keeps them in the ball game, and they end up winning it each and every time. 14 straight wins. I think they now have the nation's longest winning streak since Georgia lost the SEC title game. And I'm not going to give my pick. I really wanted to there. But those are my keys to the game. Something's got to give. And the Michigan secondary. So here we go. It's going to be an offense versus defense game. It's going to be a line of scrimmage ball game. It should be a doozy of a national championship game, unlike last year's 62-7 or whatever it was debacle, 65-7. So I'm just hoping for a good one this year, Wayne.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on this college football playoff national championship game?
No, I think I'm ready to watch it right now, but I have to wait.
Yeah, me too. I'm pumped up for this one. I'm excited for the 12-team playoff next year. I'm excited for conference realignment. And what's really cool about this game right here, and we'll get into it in the pick six, is it's a future conference matchup, and that brings us to our pick six right now. It's time for the ATL Prime Sports pick six. You pick 6 football games. Lines and spread are from Tuesday this time. Yeah, we changing the rules late. I'm sorry. I got to it Tuesday. The holidays got to me. Per Caesars Sportsbook, this week it is the national championship, pitting number 2 Washington 14-0 versus number 1 Michigan, also 14-0. The battle of unbeatens. Michigan's 4.5-point favorites, over under 55.5. NRG Stadium, Houston, Texas. Again, a future conference matchup. Wayne, you said Washington, right?
Yeah, that's who I've got to pick Washington. I've been sticking with them all year.
Man, this one's really tough to pick. I've gone back and forth. I got Washington on paper. I'm going to go with Washington in the points because, look, I can't go against this team that just seems like no matter what happens, they win the game. I have literally doubted them. I think we put them in the pick six probably 6 or 7 times this year, maybe 5 or 6, 4 or 5, whatever it is. I don't think I've picked them once. I think I've picked against them every damn time.
I know when they played. I know when they played Oregon and Oregon State, you picked against them, and maybe even Utah when they played them. But that's the ones I remember.
We've picked them 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 times, somewhere in that range, and every time I have daggum dogged myself on them because I'm like, they're good. What am I doing? And that's what I'm saying. They're good. What am I doing? Penix, the 3 receivers. If Johnson's healthy, they're going to play. They have a bend but don't break defense, and they got a guy that's got a chip on his shoulder. I like Washington in the points as well, Wayne. And I tell you, Larry does too. The Michigan man, TC Todd Corder, is taking Michigan to cover. But I was back and forth. I'm leaving it at Washington. But golly, I want to pick Michigan. This is a tough ball game to pick. Both these teams are very talented. J.J. McCarthy's going to make some plays. Corum's going to make some plays. Sticking with Washington.
Do you want me to pick for you? Want me to pick for you?
Yeah, no, I'm sticking with Washington. I'm going to stick with Washington. I gave myself a little chance to possibly change there. I'm going Washington. Larry's going Washington. You're going Washington. Todd's going Michigan. Game 2, the rest of the way is NFL.
Well, hey, I want to tell you something before we go on with this. If I ever see you at the OTB window, I'm going to make sure I'm in front of you because I want to place my bet and get out of there. I don't want to be sitting behind you waiting for you to decide. I don't even know if they have. I don't even know if they have off-track betting in Atlanta, but maybe they should.
Not here. Unfortunately, we got to go to your state if we want some off-track betting, online betting. Second game of the Pick Six is the 9-7 Steelers. Travel to Baltimore to take on the 13-3 number one seeded Baltimore Ravens. Pittsburgh's 3.5-point favorites. Over under 36.5. This game's Saturday at 4:30 p.m. on ABC. No Lamar Jackson. Steelers need this one for the playoff picture. I'm going Steelers to cover. I think they'll figure out a way to get some offense going. Just enough. I think Lamar Jackson and company is going to be in rest mode and get ready for playoff mode. Steelers cover. What say you, Wayne?
Well, I'm taking the Ravens and the points in this one, and not just because of the points. I think it's because the other Harbaugh is going to have his ducks in the row for this game. So I think it comes down to a coaching situation. I think he is looking better the last couple of games. So I'm going to go with Ravens.
And Huntley's had some experience before. He got in last year and played for the injured Lamar Jackson. So that is not a bad pick. But, again, I'm going Steelers to cover. Mike Tomlin in pressure situations does a wonderful job. Yet another winning season under his belt. Todd's got the Steelers. Larry's got the Steelers. Let's go Colts and Texans. Wayne, I'll let you take this one after I read the spread. Texans 9-7, traveling to Indianapolis, where Georgia won their first national championship in 41 years. The Colts are 9-7. Houston's 1.5-point road favorites. Over under, and that one's 47 and a hook. That's a Saturday nighter at 8:15 on ABC. Wayne, I'm taking the Texans. I like C.J. Stroud. I like what the Texans have done this year. Will Anderson Jr. on the defensive side of the ball. 2 top 5 picks, and they have taken off quickly. I think that momentum carries on into Indianapolis, who had a great second half of the season, but they're getting beat up. Zach Moss is out. Jonathan Taylor's had a great second half of the season since getting healthy. But I do think the Texans get the job done. Texans cover. What say you?
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Texans as well, generally for a lot of the same reasons that you are, because I feel like they're a bit more healthy.
Texans cover. Texans cover. All right, see, we got that for Wayne. Got the same thing for Todd, and the only one going with the Colts is Larry Gardner at LG for real, though. Larry Gardner taking the Colts and Gardner Minshew, Michael Pittman and company. Let's go to our fourth game. Here it is, Wayne. The fastball, the one we pick every week. What a season. 7-9. Falcons traveling to the Superdome, take on the Saints at 8-8. New Orleans is 3-point favorites. Over under is 42.5. Sunday, 1:00 p.m. on CBS. Falcons must throw the ball more effectively than they did last week. Excuse me. They only threw for 173 yards. They had a touchdown, but they had 4 interceptions between 2 quarterbacks. Got to do better than that. Wayne, what say you?
Well, this is definitely not the 15-game win season I thought that the Falcons were going to have. But I'm not going to stop picking them now just because it's the end of the year, and this is their one chance to have a chance to get into the playoffs. So I have to pick the Falcons.
I hate picking the Saints. But I'm picking the Saints.
Oh, no. See, take that
Wayne,
shit off.
I know, but I'm trying to win this pick six. Everybody's getting a little close. We'll go over the records here in a second.
I don't think I've got a chance this year. That's maybe why my picks are a little bit more flaky.
Well, everybody's technically got a chance.
Oh, okay.
We still got the playoffs. A couple more weeks of until the Super Bowl, and we'll have fun with the Super Bowl. But you still got a ballpark shot chance. But I'm going Saints here for one reason. The Falcons just don't play well in New Orleans, and the Falcons just haven't looked good. I think things are getting in their head. They're a young football team. And I think that's going to haunt them this weekend versus a veteran-laden Saints team. And I'm kicking myself in the foot, and I really don't want to make this pick because I have a feeling the Falcons are going to prove me wrong. But my sports betting tells me to chill the fan out and pick the Saints. I think Derek Carr is going to have a pretty big game. pressure-filled situation for the Saints and Falcons. I like the Saints this weekend. Todd likes the Saints. Larry's going with the Atlanta Falcons and the points as well. Let's get to our fifth game. It is the Bears and the Packers. The Bears 7-9 travel to Green Bay to take on the 8-8 Packers. Green Bay's 3-point favorites. Over under 44.5. Sunday, 4:25 p.m. on CBS. Quarterback Jordan Love has really taken a step forward this season. 30 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. That's third in the league behind only Prescott and Purdy, the two Ps. Running back Aaron Jones, I mentioned earlier, he's on fire. 2 straight games with over 120 yards rushing. I think he gets into the end zone this weekend. I think he gets healthy and gets ready for a playoff run. And again, this is a dangerous team. Jordan Love's really playing at a high level right now. He's learned how to throw the football. Again, 30 touchdown passes. That's third in the league in that category. I think Green Bay gets a much-needed win in a situation that they could have won last year and been in the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers, their new quarterback. I like the Packers to cover the spread. Wayne, what say you?
I got to pick the Bears, because I don't like the Packers.
Hey, they're playing really good football, Wayne. Again, Justin Fields is learning how to throw the rock, also while making his means running the football. DJ Moore on the outside has been a pleasant surprise in the second half of the season, not only for fantasy owners, but for Chicago football fans. I think he finally found himself a home there. And I also think Herbert, the running back, has found holes and found some solidity in that old line up front. That's a very good pick, but I think the pressure, Jordan Love at home, they get away with it. That's why I'm going Packers, but I like your Bears pick. They're playing really good football. TC's going with the Packers, and Larry is going with the Bears and the points as well. Our final game is probably the biggest game of the weekend, deciding winner take all division championship. Bills on the road in Miami at the 11-5 Dolphins. Buffalo's 3-point road favorites. Over under 49.5. Sunday night football, 8:20 p.m. on NBC. It is the final regular season game of the season. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs hasn't had 100 yards receiving since week 6. Hasn't had a touchdown in 4 weeks. Hasn't eclipsed 50 yards in either of those games. Big players come to play in big games. Bills get Diggs involved early and often. I think he breaks the 100-yard barrier. I think he breaks that touchdown drought. Bills go down to South Florida and show everybody why Josh Allen's a bad dude. They win the division and get into the playoffs as that 2 seed, and it's going to be tough to play in Buffalo in the cold, cold weather. I like the Bills to cover on the road. Wayne, what say you?
I'm taking the Dolphins in this one because it's Dolphins at home, and I think that has a bigger effect than anything else in this game.
Yeah, I always say I really like home dogs. When the team is a home underdog, I would love to see that record. I feel like they're pretty good straight up. But I'm going Bills. Larry's going Buffalo as well. TC's going Dolphins as well. There's our pick 6. Here's our standings. Larry is 47-49 after a 4-2 week a couple weeks ago. TC is 45-51 after a 500 week. Wayne, you're 46-50 after a 4-2 week last week. You snuck there into third place and a game ahead of Todd. And here I am at 52-44 after another 4-2 week last week in first place. Having the best, one of the best years I've done this pick 6, Wayne.
Yeah.
Doing pretty good. 8 games over. And that's right up there with close to those expert level picks. So I'm pretty happy with myself there.
Does that mean we'll have to buy you a trophy this time?
No, we don't do that. Although we could incorporate something fun.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go to the shed and just weld a few pieces of pipe together, and that can be the trophy.
Yeah, there you go.
The pipe trophy.
Jug. Minnesota and Michigan play for.
Yeah.
So, guys, that's where we stand. Let's get into our final thought real quick. The Braves acquired left-handed pitcher Chris Sale and some cash from the Red Sox in exchange for infielder Vaughn Grissom. I think it's a great move. Here's why. $500,000. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. That's the number. That's the number Atlanta's going to pay Chris Sale in terms of salary this season, with all the incentives, the $17 million cash, and deferring the money. Hey, there we go. We got that page from the Los Angeles Dodgers there. Thank you for reminding us you can do that. No, I'm just teasing. But short term, you get the help at the front end of the rotation. Grissom gets to play second base right away. It's going to help both teams. And look, he's not playing here in the near future. We're not going to trade away Ozzie Albies or anything like that. So I think it's a great move by Alex Anthopoulos. Wayne, your final thought, my friend.
Well, it's something that I'd just like to put out there for the Expedia people, if they're interested. See about buying a stake in the NBA, because I have never seen so much traveling in my life as I see in the NBA. So they might as well be sponsored by somebody like Expedia,
United Airways.
Yeah.
This traveling violation is brought to you by.
But they never call them. I've seen them take 9 steps. They'll take 9 steps, dribble, take a few more, and then shoot. It's weird.
It's gotten pretty bad. I personally think the Euro steps travel. I'm probably one of the few people in the world that believe that. But
hey, put a few of them SEC refs to work in the NBA, and I guarantee you they'll call every damn thing that happens. Yeah.
Travel. That's what we want to see. Well, that's Wayne in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm JJ Jurjevich for TC Todd Corder and Larry Gardner. This has been another edition of ATL Prime Sports. Thanks for listening. If you like the content, please like and subscribe and follow us on all platforms at ATL Prime Sports. We'll see you next week. Get you one and enjoy the college football playoff national championship.